to see all of you, and happy that you are here because we're going to look at photos from an exhibit that opened recently at the National Hellenic Museum called Gather Together, Street Photography by Diane Alexander White, which is me. And it's been a real eye-opener for me, partly because the museum was interested, first and foremost. They were looking for photos of the old Greek town. Do you remember the old Greek town in Chicago where it was the record store and the pastry shop and all the different Greek restaurants there in Broyonda? Whatever you want, if you wanted to buy a bottle of Metaxa, there was a store that sold Greek alcohol and other things. So that has kind of dissipated, and as you know, Greektown has been absorbed by downtown Fulton Market and that whole condo boom, right? So what we remember is Greektown, Diana's Opa, and Sistaria, and no, Sistaria is up here, I'm sorry. But Viti, I mean, what are some of the other ones that you remember? Lots of places. Parthenon was a big one. Costas is gone. And now there's a big condo building there. So whatever the case. And then after they looked at those photos, they said, oh, you have Greek Independence Day. You've got Greek Fest. It was in Lawrence and, the what they call the Greektown North, Lawrence and Western. And from there, we created this exhibit called Gather Together. So I'm going to take you through some of the photos. And quite honestly, this is a free-for-all. I want you all to kind of chime in with people that you might recognize, or if you see the corner of a particular street that you recognize, feel free to just go for it. And here we go. So here is Father Byron, who kind of dominated.
You're one of those pointers, right?
I don't have one, so
I know.
I'm not gonna worry about that. And Father Gutelas, do you see Father Gutelas off to the right? So he's right here.
Oh.
That's him right there. And then some other priests, and Father Valles is off to the left, and I don't recognize the other ones, and that's why we're here, is to kind of see who's who. I need to find this out. This is what the exhibit looks like currently. And this float with the Archeat Klaus since the 1861, I found out who some of these people are. There's a gal who just friended me recently on Facebook and said, that's me. Her name is Maria. I have to look her up again because I can't remember, but her brother's on the float, and so is a cousin. And people comment about the boy with the submachine gun in his lap, which is probably a toy, but nevertheless, in today's culture, we look at these things and we're a little bit horrified, but for us back in the day, it's like what you did on a float when you were at a Greek Independence Day event. So these are all from the 70s and the 80s. On the right of that is, very top photo is from the Festa, it's called, it's a Mexican fest in Pilsen, and then you've got Greek Independence in the middle, and then on the bottom is the Chinese fest with the little day camper kids. And this is one of, they blew up these huge photos as murals, so this is probably like, I don't know, 8 by 13 feet. So pretty much dominates the space. And this is also Greek Independence. And you could see there was a movie theater in the back showing blaxploitation films with Fred Williamson and just sort of that genre of movies that was coming out in the 70s and the 80s. But does anybody recognize anyone in this photo? Because I do. And if you see Faye Meselson,
Yeah, Faye Meselson,
the gal with the white hair, her brother was Jim Meselson, who helped start the National Hellenic Museum. And he used to write a column in the Greek Star, I believe.
Right, yeah.
So there's my Greek school teacher, Kyria Yorgopoulou on the left, who taught at Korai, St. Constantine and Helen, and then started her own Greek school called Beraikon. I don't know if you remember, but she had a really dominant role in Greek school culture, where her girls were all marching in double-breasted naval jackets and pleated skirts and little, naval caps. And you could see the one child sitting on the float behind to her left, kind of in that dress. But you've got Greek independence here, and then there's Japanese festival, and at the very top to the right of Gideon Yogopulu is Jane Byrne with Jay McMullen, her husband, and Cardinal John Patrick Cody, and sort of the whole political era of the 80s. I think this was 1981. And then again, another assortment of like German parades and Festa Italiana in the Daly Center, and that's Mr. Dominic DeFrisco, who started the Joint Italian Committee in probably the 70s or 80s. And so, you know, I mean, that's me. That's me in the exhibit. And you see me, there's a case right there with some of the old cameras that I used to use with, obviously, film. This is the 70s and the 80s, so it was purely analog. Andrea Darlis did a podcast interview, which is going to be on very soon on WGN. And here she is talking to me. And Dino Ramirez, does anybody know Dino Ramirez? Yeah. He's on the board at the Hellenic Museum. And then to the right is one of our parishioners.
Vicki Maris.
Vicki and her daughter. They came to the opening. This is all stuff from the opening. This is Manolis Koubarakis, who is the new consul general. So if you need to get your Greek citizenship rolling, he's the man to talk to. At least the staff is, and they've been very helpful to me. Becky and Phil. Hadzopoulos, yeah.
They were there, yeah.
And you can see some of the photos that they're looking at there. And
that's a good picture.
This is, oh gosh, I don't have my phone with me, but Augusta was able to identify who this man is, but he walked right up to that photo and said, "That's me! This is me!"
That is funny.
So that made it really fun. And I think that's what this is all about. It's like every person in this photo montage has a story. Who are they? And more of our friends from St. Andrews with does anybody know Chris Delamaris?
Yeah, I do.
He owns Delamaris, what is it? It's produce, but he's a distributor, so he does big stuff. He underwrote the exhibit. He paid for this exhibit to be printed, and just all of everything that went behind creating the exhibit. He's a nice man. That's my cousin Steve Alexander on the left, and some other friends. And do you know, anybody know Marianne Contouras? She's the director at the museum. She's on the left with Chris, who underwrote, and Manolis Koubarakis, and myself. And these are actually some of the people I went to Greek school with. On the left is Amalia, and some other friends, and her sister, Christine, and then some other folks. And Jeff, and their friends. Do you know that's Maria Kara? Does anybody read Windy City Greek?
Oh, yeah.
That's Maria Karamitsos and her husband on the left. But the two people off to the right, who are they, Marilyn?
That's John and Martha.
John and Martha.
Yeah, John, yeah.
Stephanie Boulakidis, and just a group of people I went to college with, and some clients and friends.
Canis. John and Martha Canis.
Canis? Okay,
yeah, Martha's on the board with me.
Okay. There's Mary Orphan on the right, and Tia Angelos on the left.
Yeah, that's the guy from the society.
Okay, so now we're getting into like what the photos are about, and I photographed like so much stuff in the 70s and 80s. I love this. It's so Superfly era, and kind of the Commodores music and disco all kind of rolled into one. So I used to get on my bike or on the CTA with my little camera, and I would just go photograph stuff just for fun. Didn't do it because somebody hired me or told me to do it. It was just like I did it. And I was in school at the time, and we did have instructors that said to us, you know, it's Bud Billiken's coming up on Saturday, you should really go down there and document this stuff. And so I did. I think this one was from possibly 80. Okay, I'm supposed to talk louder. Can you not hear me, people?
Okay.
It's
All right.
a little quiet.
You can see that from the signage here, Gwendolyn Brooks was still alive, and she has recently passed away. So, again, Bud Billiken, this is the Chinese New Year parade, I think 1974, and I must have stopped in my tracks because of the woman in the zebra fun fur. We used to call it fun fur. I don't know if you remember that term. And again, coming down toward Wentworth Street, this is 1974, Chinese New Year. I think it was Year of the Rooster. And this man, I got to find out who he is because he looks like a big shot. He was someone who dominated. Now we're at Fiesta del Sol in Pilsen. And I call this baila because it's the whole dancing, you know, baila is dancing, and just people just being very informal and having fun. And then during the Jane Byrne era, which is what this is, 1981, there were all these different parks that had fantastic music, and people would just come and sit and hang out. This was at Western and Lawrence when they completely blocked off that intersection, and this is one of the, this is an interview from that actual day. I don't know who this man is, but they were asking him his thoughts about the whole thing. That's me, right on Western. You can see some of the architecture in the background, some of which is still standing and some of which will probably come down soon. And this is the actual corner. So this is Western.
Yeah.
Lawrence is running east-west behind everyone. And the Athens was still open at that time, the Athens restaurant. What I love about it is the hotel sign. It's now the Dank House. Is anybody familiar with Dank House?
Yes.
It's kind of the German place to be, where you learn German language.
Yeah.
There's German, you know, events there, food and so on and so forth. And there's my Greek school teacher, Kyria Yangopoulou. She was a very rah Greek nationalist type of person, which is, oh, I want those glasses. That's what you'll see in most of these photos. The styles are so cool, and the glasses are big, and it was a great time. And I love this photo because if you can picture these girls standing as straight as they possibly can, and now this float is ready to turn the corner and go down State Street. Like, how do you do that without falling? They had nothing to hold on to. This is when the floats were really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, there is someone in this picture. She's sitting on a stool, which she brought herself. Does anybody recognize her from the Hollywood House days? She's wearing the checked suit. It's Kyria Skondo. Does anyone remember Mrs. Skondos?
Oh, yeah.
That's her. And that's what I love about these pictures. It's like I must have zeroed in on this photo because I recognized her. So she became part of that tableau. And this is one of the ones you saw that was blown up earlier. And this is the young man who said, "Hey, that's me." And this is my cousin's son, Phil Apostolou. And the young man to his left is John Bisbikas. And the kid with the profile, I forget because I'm in my notes in front of me, but they're all 50 years old now. This is 19. St. Constantine and Helen Korai. This is Korea's Greek school. Now we're up on Devon Avenue, and this is called the Indo-Pak Parade, where the Indians and Pakistanis had a parade together, which is not what they do anymore. They have since gone their separate ways because of political reasons and so on. And there's Mahatma Gandhi in the photo that they're holding. And this is kind of generational and interesting because you got the Yaya, the Indian Yaya, wearing her sari, and then her granddaughter is just like in her shorts and her, you know, little top, and mom is just kind of still carrying that forward, that dress forward. We're at the Jewish Fest now, and anybody know where Winston Towers is?
Yeah.
Over on Kedzie?
Yeah.
It was the park that is very close to that. And I went there and I photographed it. Benny Goodman played that day. The Benny Goodman. He was still alive.
Is that Winter Parks?
Yeah. Yep. Very good. And just kind of like an open market there where you could buy your various things that you need for Seder, etc. Now we're back to Bud Billiken, but the very first one I ever photographed in 1974, where this girl is like Miss Black USA and sitting on the top of this, you know, beautiful Cadillac. And I need to find out who she is. Again, Bud Billiken here, the majorettes. Ohi. Needs no explanation. It's what we do. And these guys were veterans of a very early war. So I thought, my gosh, you know, here we are in 1976, and they are already in their 80s, if not older. You know, what war could they have fought? I mean, they're probably in something in the 1920s. I'm not sure exactly what. And I love this photo because this little girl's got her own little chair, which people brought their own chairs back then, but you could see her friend's name is written on her cast, and I often thought, I should look up the name of this Mary, get the remainder of her name. But the man who is off to the left, the camera on his neck, he is using the same camera that I used. It's essentially the same one. It has a little lens that folds in and out. Now this is a photo also from that same time frame, probably 1978, on the steps of the Art Institute, where someone's got to know somebody here, because there are so many Greek people standing on the steps, but I have yet to even find one that I know. You see someone you know. And that's when we would have Ev zones, you know, standing guard along Michigan Avenue. And this is what I loved about those parades, is they were on Michigan Avenue, State Street, Dearborn. They went on for quite a ways, at least a couple of miles. People really marched in these things until it went down to Halsted Street. Here's Mr. Dominic DeFrisco up at the top, helmet hair, looking very handsome, observing the dancing and so on. Marina Towers is in a lot of my photos because the parades always started on Wacker Drive. So you'll always see it. This is the German, the Von Steuben Day Parade. Von Steuben also. I mean, there it is, Marina Towers. It's a great building to have as a backdrop. I really love how it looks. That kind of the Bertrand Goldberg, yeah, design. Anybody recognize this priest from St. Demetrius in Elmhurst?
Well, Father Malamis was there forever.
I think that's who that is.
Yes, the senior Father Malamis.
Okay. Well, they're waiting to kick off the parade. They're just kind of in a holding pattern until they start marching.
Yes, Father Sophie, well, he's a, yes.
Now, if you recognize this man, who is it?
Pierre Demetz.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Whose wife was a longtime parishioner once they moved to the north side. I remember him from my days at St. Connie's,
Well, they
because
got
that's where I
married
grew up.
there.
Did they?
Yeah,
Oh,
Tula was
fantastic.
originally from here, because we had it in one of the historical stuff, we have their wedding picture,
And this is why I wanted us to be able to look at these together, because I knew that there'd be some recognition there. Anybody see a face here they know?
Andy Copen.
Yes, it is.
yeah, look at Andy.
Andrew Copen, who was a historian of Greek American life in Chicago. In the middle, I went to school with this fella, and of course he was an activist. He was always passing out leaflets and kind of rah-rah-rahing certain causes. And again, the Greek parade, just people. I love to photograph people compressed in a space where they can't really move. They're like stuck there, and you're either like, and I get in there really fast. I'm like, bam, boom, move on. So that's what you're seeing here, is just this very quick capture, isolating and freezing in time these spaces. What is?
Guy in the middle of the tie reminded somebody, but I'm trying to think who.
I love the little cat outfit, little kitty cat overall on this little girl. And everyone's kind of clasping their hands around the same time.
That's,
You see somebody there, Carolyn?
the lady in the middle with the white and the glasses.
Yeah.
I don't remember who she is though.
Okay, well, think about it.
There's a classic guy there with the like a time warp.
Justus and Esti. I mean, it must have been right after, they used to have these parades in May, so it was right after Easter, so the choir was carrying that signage. Okay, this is Ashley Caligaris. Remember Ashley?
Yeah.
That's her mom.
Uh-huh.
Wow.
That is her mom. What's her mom's name again?
Michelle.
Michelle. Thank you. Thanks, folks. Yeah, it's Michelle.
Wow.
And I said, I asked Ashley, I said, ask your mom if she recognizes who these other fellas are. It's like, it'd be hard to, because they're covered in these masks.
Yeah.
The Greek Macedonian Society, anybody Macedonian here? And these are the day campers that would just come to the Daily Center. Back then when they had, their little paper bags with a bologna sandwich and whatever the Chicago Park District provided for them at that time. But I love the little boy who's just got his head down. He's falling asleep here, he's so tired. It's been a long day. And these beautiful geishas were flown in from Japan to dance this particular Japanese festival. And I have some other wonderful photos of these women in their traditional style garb. And then we have just how we have participation of our children in different programs. The Japanese do the same thing, so these children were up on the stage dancing as well. It's just a quick photo of their mom saying, just kind of smiling, looking at me. Now we're at the Puerto Rican festival down at the Daily Center, and we got the Patti Smith group on a t-shirt. I wish I had that, I really like it. It's 1981. And it's just, the guy on the left just reminds me so much of Miami Vice. An actor from Miami Vice, I forgot his name, but it's just these cool guys. All right, who is this? Come on, people. Jane.
And her husband.
And Jay McMullen.
Yeah.
And Eddie Rosewell to the right, which is what Maria Pappas does today. She's has his job. What is she? Treasurer. Yeah, he was the treasurer at the time.
That's St. Patrick's Day.
St. Patty's with
the Queen,
Cardinal Cody.
Irish Queen.
And I've yet to find out who she is, but I would love to. She's so cute. What was great, okay, so this is a black and white photo, but I remember walking right up to the reviewing stand, and Jane is wearing a green fox coat. It was green, like a dark green. It was like so beautiful. If you like fur, and I do. Oops, did I say something wrong? We're at Bud Billiken, and again, how I love to take wide shots of lots of people. And I really love this. And I love it partly because, as you know, 35mm film is small. It's like that big, very tiny. It's like 3/4 of an inch by 1 1/4 inches, perhaps. Now imagine this being blown up to this dimension, and yet it's retaining so much of its information and detail. Okay, is that it? Oh no. Got these two guys, or high-class mangas, with their various camera equipment. And we're back to the Festa Italiana, where the women are wearing their traditional regional Italian clothing. Same event. And
Look at that hairstyle, oh my goodness.
I mean, the look on her face, like looking at him, and these sort of grumpy ladies in the front, but the woman to the far lower left is my Aunt Caroline Scularina. She happened to be there, and again, it was a face that drew me in to capturing this photo. And these guys from the Mexican neighborhoods, going under the train tracks at Wells for the Von Steuben Day Parade. Von Steuben, Mayor's Row. I mean, does anybody remember Mayor's Row?
Yeah.
Block 37, that took down that whole block. And this is what that block looked like on Dearborn when it was still beautiful and big. It was a Greek-owned place. They had the best happy hour food. At 4 o'clock, I get out of work, I run down there, I get the little hot dogs wrapped in dough, where they make them like a little popover, and they had meatballs, and it was like, oh man, like a meal in itself. It's a fun place. Greek parade. Now we're with the St. Constantine and Helen. You can see the signage right there. An homage to Hagia Sophia. And that's my cousin with her arms folded, my cousin Lillian, and her children and her sister Maria, who's in Greece right now. We stayed at her house when we were in Ikaria a couple of years ago. The Cretan Society banner as they're marching down Michigan Avenue. And we're back to Japanese Fest. The Kodo drummers. Has anybody ever seen the Kodo drummers?
Yeah.
Ernie, Japanese drumming, really amazing to listen to. I love it. This is hilarious because I've had people say to me, "No, he's real." I go, "No, it's a mannequin." Nobody stands on the very edge of a float and can keep their, and he was just like this guy, looked very real, but it was not. I've had this discussion with people before, like, "No, he's real." I'm like, "No, he's not. Trust me." The kids, but there were these wonderful sequined outfits, just very beautiful, detailed things that the kids would wear. And these gals, they gotta be sisters. I don't know. I'm just seeing sisters all throughout, and they're all drinking Fanta together. It's at the Polish festival. And when I look at this, I say, I need a Greek princess t-shirt, or we should make them for our next picnic. Can we do that? Greek princess? The Greek flag? Or Greek queen? I'll take queen. We're at the Puerto Rican festival here. And I just lined everybody up. I said, "Can I get a picture of all of you?" I'm really good at corralling people. If I have to kind of get my hands moving this direction, go, "Okay, come on, everybody, let's get close together." And I just kind of orchestrated that.
What year was that?
This
You
was
just did it this
81.
morning with Father Simeon.
Yeah,
right?
it's like, come on, everybody, you gotta just put your hands like this,
Yeah.
go like this, bring them together. And if they don't listen to you, keep bringing them in. Now this is the
Or you're sending them to her,
quintessential
or she's
yaya.
gonna sort 'em out.
Yeah, if you had somebody like her chasing you around with a kutala like I did as a child. She did not take any prisoners. I mean, I love this woman. I look at her hands and I say, how many curambiadas did she make? And viplas and all, you know, her struggles in Greece and coming to this country and adapting. It wasn't an easy time, right? And I see that in her face, in her hands. It makes me a little emotional. And we're back to Father Byron, but this is the full picture. And if you look to the far left, you'll see Father Nick Nikokavoras from Evangelismo, from Annunciation. And Father Triandafili is just with his glasses and a little mustache. And then it's Father Valles.
Yeah.
And the rest of them.
Yeah,
Koutelas and Byron, yes. And the rest of them I don't know,
And then
although I
Father Vergis, and on the right, the far right.
Yeah.
Father Katinas is the one looking next to Father Koutelas.
okay, I gotta write that down then. I need that from you.
Nick and
Well, we grew up with these guys going to the different Goya dances over
Yeah,
the years, and
yeah.
you'd see the priests.
This gal, Mrs. Galasperakis, she taught Greek school at St. Connie's for 23 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay, anybody recognize her?
Pedros.
Yes.
yeah.
Who's still around.
Oh, wow.
Not in the restaurant business, but he's, yeah. I
How old
looked
is
him
he
up.
now?
In his 80s, probably.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you could see, okay, I
That's
see B.
Diane
Marks's
from
face.
Diane.
If you look at the reviewing stand behind him, you might see some faces that look recognizable. But
His
he
wife
was,
still has the shop on Michigan Avenue, Contessa.
oh yeah, I remember her.
She's still around.
And we've got the Greek dancers, and I love how his feet are off the ground to the right. Just really got some lift there. Okay, this is a great shot because you see all the priests and you see who's in the reviewing stand. And there's B right in the middle,
Mm-hmm.
B. Marks, and I don't know if Jacobus is in there.
Look at Isaiah
Archbishop.
next to it,
Is it?
next to Father Chris.
Okay.
And it looks like,
Yeah, it does look
because
like,
he was a chancellor.
right, he was the chancellor here before.
Who has that information? Who can like pull that kind of stuff up, like
What, well, like,
historically? Who's who? The who's who's of
It's
priests
hard
and
to
so on.
see.
I don't know if they actually have an archivist here.
Oh, you mean like?
You
who's
hack,
there?
but I'd have to go
And
through some
funny,
stuff.
I recognize some of the faces, but can't remember the names.
Yeah, I know.
It looks like Paul Sarbanes in the back.
I think, yeah,
Yeah.
that would be that time era. So this is 81.
And Tom Capsalis.
But don't you love the architecture in the background? I think it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
The Beaux-Arts style of buildings. And of course, the Marshall Field bag. Marshall Fields was, I remember as soon as these parades were done, you go into Marshall Fields and all you heard was Greek chatter. It was just Greek people everywhere. It was just fun. Kids are all dressed up with their amalias. They're in front of the Art Institute. That's my Aunt Menda Gavastis Alexander. Does anybody know the Gavastis family?
Yeah.
She was a Gavastis, and married my dad's brother, Nick Alexander. And that's one of the Kardashians that Peter was throwing out, on the street, and she managed to snag one. And the gal on the left is Harriet Patras. I went to Greek school with her son, Chris. And this was at the time where Alexander the Great exhibit was at the Art Institute. So you will see it in a lot of the banners and Metron steel. Is that, who owned that Metron?
Yeah,
Athens.
Yeah,
Tom.
that's what I thought. And again, there's your Alexander the Great, search for Alexander banners on the left there. And this is Mexican Independence Day, 1981. Back when Marshall Fields was still in business, but as these flags are parting, you can see the Greek flag on the right and the American flag on the left. Okay, this is one of our parishioners. Anybody recognize her?
Kathy Kapoor.
That's it.
Yeah.
Kathy Kapoor Generis. And I asked her permission. I said, is it okay if I use this photo in the exhibit? She said, by all means, go for it. And I was just happy that she said yes, and then she was also at the opening. And she is. Okay. How can you resist a photo of this woman? It's like, she's got it going on there. But everyone else's faces. It's always the coldest day of the year, too. Whenever you have these parades, it's just freezing. So I'll go backwards real fast because Father just walked in. It really is. It's such a throwback to a different time when people actually went downtown and did these fun things.
Yeah.
Let's see that one for a second, the one with that big group.
Go back. That one. You see someone?
And where
you
was
know?
the Art Institute?
Right on the
that's
steps,
part
yeah.
of the,
During, it was on Michigan Avenue.
So they were just lined up watching the
Just,
parade?
yeah, it's a good vantage point. You're up
Yeah.
on these stairs, you can see down. Much easier as an observation point.
Yeah.
So that's it, folks. Thank you.
Tell everyone where to see your
All right, so this exhibit called Gather Together, Street Photography by Diane Alexander White runs until April 2023.
Oh, wow.
So I'm running down there today because it's the architecture open house, and they're open. So feel free to come on down, check it out.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Photo, Diane. Thank you. I have a photo. Maybe you can stand there and like.
Where do you want me?
I'm gonna go like
Over
this.
here. So, real quickly, for those that are streaming and those that were not able to be in church today, we are going to try to have a couple of trips between now and when the exhibit ends in April. Our youth group is trying to organize an event for the Goyans to go down together. for the exhibit, and I would like for us to try to organize, whether it's the Young at Heart creating a trip, or just a general parish trip where we're going to go all together to celebrate the photography of Diane that has been so impactful for us. We thank everyone for coming for the second Coffee and Culture. We thank Dr. Peter for organizing our Coffee and Culture Fellowship. I'm glad to see that once again we had another great group of people listening to the fantastic, edifying talks for us to learn a little bit more about our culture and to enjoy a little cafe like. So I'm going to end the recording, but let's gather together for a group picture together.
Yeah, take it. I got mine.
Yep.
Where are we taking it?
Oh, we can.
We'll take it with the photo.